Hey guys, welcome to my channel Suno Kahani, where we were reading Red Flags and Rishtas by Radhika Agarwal. So, today we are going to read chapter 16, The Morning After. A gentle hand on my shoulder roused me from my sleep. My eyes took some time to adjust to the light and recognize the face peering at me. Hey, he said, standing next to the bed. Hmm, I mumbled. Last night's slumber still weighing heavily on my eyelids. He went down to remove a strand of my hair from my face, pausing when the palm of his hand rested again against my mouth. Instinctively, I kissed it. I really have to rush right now, he said, gently withdrawing his hand. But I call you later. We will talk properly, okay? I hugged the pillow tightly, trying to hold on to the snuggy feeling I had woken up with it. What time is it? I asked as he sat down on the table on the bed to slide his feet into his shoes. The fact that he was fully clothed made me want to pull the covers all the way up to my neck to hide my own nakedness. Nakedness. It's 8:30, he said, twisting his toes to look at me. You should rest until checkout. You need it. I smiled lazily at him, closing my eyes to welcome the teeny kiss he planted on my forehead. I slipped back into a deep slumber, allowing myself a few extra hours before having to acknowledge the reality of what had happened between the two of us. But when my alarm played at 11:30 am, I knew I could no longer afford to do so. Waking up alone in the bed, the two of us had sobbed, paired with my hangover anxiety, I had sliced through the heart of my previous dreamy morning. Images from last night flashed in quick succession before my eyes. The dark parking lot, our first kiss, the car, the nerve wracking walk to my room, this room, our clothes flying, his amused expression when he could not figure out how to undo my badly worn sari, the tie around his neck, with which I had pulled him into a kiss, the way he had thrown me on the bed, the weight of his body on top of mine, and how his skin had felt against my own. No, stop. I pulled the covers off my face, groaning loudly. What had I done? Not only had I slept with enemy, I had also bloody well enjoyed it. But that was not the worst of it. A string of messages was waiting for me on my phone. They were all from Madhav. Still at the reception. Hey, I'm home. Crashing now, but call me when you get done. Are you okay? Good morning. Call me when you wake. I tried to drawn out of my groans by holding a pillow firmly over my face. It did not help. The repetition of last night's escape were hitting me with the full of force, and I could do nothing to stop it from happening. My head was reeling with thoughts I did not know how to make sense of, let alone process. How had this happened, and why did something that had seemed so inconceivable up until yesterday feel so natural today? It was as if my body had known all along that this day would come, but it had forgotten to let my brain in on the secret. What was I supposed to do now? Go about my day as if I had not just had passionate, burning sex with the man I had been hating for the past couple of months. A call from the check-out desk gave me the push I needed to get out of bed. It was Sunday, the only day I had for myself. Before getting back to the office, there was things I wanted to do that did not involve stressing over the guy I had slept with or the one I had wronged, like go home and have a meal with my parents for the first time in days and drag myself to V's boutique lunch party at the one I had decorated after the mayhem of the past week. I deserved to switch my brain off for a while. This, whatever it was, would have to wait. I was impressed with Kavita Auntie's cocktail crown. It was a brilliant shade of sapphire blue with ruffled sleeves and deep sensual black. For the life of me, I could not imagine my mother in a garment like that. But then again, our mothers could not have been more different. Mine was a stay-at-home mom who had always put her family above everything else, while the woman in front of me was hugely successful and fiercely independent. My mom was warm and comforting, while V's mother was a figure of intimidation and respect. That's probably why they had never struck up a friendship, even after having known each other through their daughters for 2 decades. Hey, you, we said, having discovered my invisible corner. What are you doing? I was strategically avoiding the thoughts screaming of my attention by thinking about nugatory things and gazing down glasses of champagne so far. It was working. I'm enjoying the party, I lied. It had been over an hour since I had arrived at the boutique, and instead of socializing with the guests and taking feedback on the decor. I had planted myself in a corner, hoping that the frown of my face would kill any shot at friendly exchange with strangers. Come on, I want to introduce you to some people, we said as she tugged on my arm. They have been gushing over what you have done with the place. When I refused to budge, she creased her forehead with a concern and asked, "Is everything all right?" I waved her away, swelling slightly. "I just need to get another drink." She lowered her chin, titling her head to one side. "You have had a lot already, Annie. You swear you are okay?" "I am fine," I said, forcing myself to hold her gaze for a few seconds. "I'm just celebrating." She nodded at that and gave me an apprehensive smile. I thrust my phone into her hand and left to fetch my fifth glass of champagne away from the safety of my corner. I had no choice but to smile at the people who acknowledged my presence. V's mother pulled me into a conversation with a group of older women, introducing me and crediting me for the work I had put in. Spaced out as I was, I could only manage a few pleasantries before executing myself from the lot. When I returned to V, she was reading something on my phone, engrossed. "Hey," I said, snatching it from her. A new message from Adar was waiting for me on the screen. "We need to talk about what happened last night. You free?" "Don't do that," I said closely. She narrowed her eyes at me and asked, "What happened last night?" I signed and said, "Nothing." Seriously, I could tell she was beginning to get upset. "Tell me or I'll DM him and ask him myself." "Jesus Christ," I said, throwing my hands up in the air. "I slept with him, okay?" My voice shot up in the end, and from the corner of my eye, I saw a lady in a red sari look briefly but curiously in our direction. "Slept with whom?" someone asked from the behind. V's wide-eyed expression confirmed the voice. I was too scared to identify him on my own. Why I finally gathered to courage to turn. Madhav was already making his way through the crowd towards the door. I rushed after him, almost spilling my drink on an uncle who was walking in the opposite direction. The air outside was thick and humidity, making it stuffier to be in the open than in a room with 30 people. "Madhav, wait." I had to raise my voice to be heard over the commotion of the street. He stopped walking away and turned to face me but refused to look at me in the eye. "What?" he demanded. "How? Eh? What are you doing here?" I asked, rubbing my forehead with my free hand. "You were not texting me back and I was worried," he scoffed, stuffing shuffling his feet. "So I asked your friend if I could come here. I began searching for the right words. I needed some time to fuck other people," he said bitterly. "Yes, I got that now." I wanted to resent him for his curtness, but I could not. This was all my fault, and there was no denying it. It was not like that. My voice faded out with the realization that there was nothing I could say right now that would not sound insincere. His shoulders were tense, his stance aggressive. "You have only known him for a few days." Apart from my brain was trying to console me. "He is overreacting." Even so, it pained me to know that I had hurt him. I could have handled this better. I could have returned his calls. I could have been honest about my feelings. I could have done pretty much anything but sleep with another man and then avoid him afterwards. "For you," he said as he cleared his throat, "just planning a ghosting on me?" "No, God, no. I just needed some time." He let out a humorless laugh and said, "Right." He shook his head at me in a way that made me feel really, really small, and without another word, he spun on his heel and left. I stood there frozen, feeling as though I had been punched in the gut. An auto honked loudly at me, and I stumbled out of the way. I sat down on the steps of the new and improved Akira couched and donned my drink. The open door next to me, and we emerged. "What's going on, Annie?" she wanted to know. "Why didn't you tell me Madha was coming?" I asked, trying to comprehend now. I had found myself in such a messy situation. She smoothed her skirt and sat down next to me. "He texted me and I thought it would be nice. It would be a nice surprise," she said, shrugging his shoulders defensively. "You should have asked me," I said, looking down at the pearl heels I had worn to match my white cut-out jumpsuit. "Unbelievable," we was shaking her head. "What?" I demanded. "Look away." I jerked her elbow towards me. "Tell me." She opened her mouth to let out a short, heavy sigh as if she was getting ready to say something that had been bothering for a while. "You don't tell me anything about your life, and then you expect me to know what the right thing to do is. That's not." She did not let me finish. "You did not even tell me about you and Adar." Her voice rose when she said his name. "There was nothing to tell." "Oh, please," she said. "You have been acting strangely, secretively ever since you met him." She began counting things off her fingers. "You lied to me to go hang out with him, and your phone constantly has texts and calls from him." I opened my mouth to explain, but she cut me off again. "And don't say it's for work. I know you have been dating him or screwing him for or whatever she said. That's not it all. My voice was drawn out amid her accusing rant. You know would not judge if you have been two timing him. She was saying. I just can't understand why you had hide it from me. Her voice crackled at the last word and she stopped talking, breathless. The noise of the street stood out in contrast with the deadly silence between me and my best friend. The champagne high I had been enjoying for last hours was threatening to come crashing down in waves. There is nothing between me and other. When she scoffed in disbelief, I took a deep breath and continued. Or at least there was not until last night. We saw so much of each other because, well, we had made her bet. We raised her eyebrows at me, as if she had not expected me to say such an odd thing, a bet. Yes, I said, begrudgingly, knowing how stupid I must sound to her, a bet to see who could find first love first. That's hilarious, he said, letting out a snicker through her teeth. Wait, are you serious? I lightly slapped my thighs with the palm of my hand, saying, see, this is why I didn't tell you, because I had tried to talk some sense into you, her big brown eyes wide with annoyance. Because you would not understand. I felt myself erupting as I exclaimed, you never do. It was my turn to unload on her. You have got everything The words began to tumble out of me. Your life is fucking fairy tale. You have got the boyfriend, the looks, the money. Everything comes easy to you. I can't compete with that. I can't listen to your lecture up me about how to better my city life when you have been handed all of it on a goddamn silver platter. What the fuck are you talking about? She leaned forward, her breath coming out in short, furious gasps. I can't explain any better, I said and looked away. Try. She reached out of my arm. I am your best friend, for fuck's sake. I continued to avoid her eye, aware that I would not be able to say what I wanted it if our gaze looked locked. You are only my friend. My voice was low, devoid of any emotion. There is difference. She stared at me as a look of acute pain overshadowed her sharp features. Then, shrugging it off, she got up, dusted herself, and went inside. Instead of following her into the boutique, I crossed the road, hailed an auto, and got in. Hot gas. I told the driver, who sped up almost immediately. I could think of only one thing to prevent the force of what had just happened from hitting me. I dialed a number on my phone. He picked up after a few seconds. Hello. Hi. Other voice was barely audible over the peak hour South Delhi traffic. Can you meet me right now? I asked, slapping my hair back into a ponytail. I can come over. I could hear faint chatter behind him as he said, I am actually at my parents' place tonight. I was hoping to talk to you over the phone. I was hoping to do anything but talk. I knew sex was not the answer to my problems. If anything, it would probably lead to newer problems, but I had just snubbled two people I cared about in one night, and I needed an outlet for the guilt that was beginning to eat away at me. I needed to feel desired. I needed to be held. He cleared his throat, sounding uncomfortable. Ananya, I'm sorry about last night. I shouldn't have done that. Removing the phone from my ear, I stared at his name flashing on my screen. Done what? Huh? Kissed me? I asked, feeling the bile rise in my throat. Yes, the discomfort in his voice was all too obvious. Come up to my room. Taken off my clothes. Put your dick inside. Ananya, he said my name, like he was scolding a teenager for saying something impolite at family dinner. I fell silent, up my back hitting the lightly cushioned seat of the auto as it rode over pothole after pothole. Had I spent any amount of time today analyzing the events of last night and this morning, I could save myself the embarrassment of this conversation, but instead I had spent the entire day avoiding my thoughts and compromising my sense. Serves you right, I thought to myself. I am about to get engaged. It took him a while to say the words. Last night should not have happened, but it did. My voice was small. Wait, did he say he was engaged? I know, I fucked up. That whole bad thing, I just screwed my head up. It made everything so exciting. I guess I forgot what was on the line. I could hear him pacing on the other hand. The bet, right? I said, I get it. He was engaged to be married. It was so silly and immature. What were we thinking? He said, letting out an uncertain laugh like he was hoping I had joined in. Had he left so hurriedly in the morning to meet the girl he was marrying after making love to me all night? I don't know, let's call it off, I said, my mouth and autopilot while my brain commuted the information I was being given. Yes, exactly. The bet is off, he said, sounding relieved. Besides, we both won. Huh? I'm getting engaged to Sneha, and you have got that guy, Madhav, I offered when he failed to come up with the name. Yes, he said, forcing cheeriness into his voice. It's kind of perfect, if you think about it. It's an absolute fucking disaster. I wanted to scream at him, and it's all your bloody fault. I should had the ugliest fight with my best friend in years. I had ruined my shot with a guy who may have actually liked me for who I was, all because of the fucking bet. I could not tell him any of that because if I did, he should know he had won. Not only had he managed to find himself a wife, but he had also successfully played me in the process. It was an epic win for him and a shameful loss for me. There was no way I was letting him bask in that knowledge. So, we are good, he asked me as the auto pulled over in front of his house, cursed under my breath. I had forgotten so told the driver to bring me here. We are perfect, I said and hung up, leaving no room for goodbyes. I got off the auto, paid the driver all the change I had and stood under the Adar's apartment building, waiting for my Uber to take me home. Chapter 17. Kicking the corporate ladder. Monday came up and went. But I stayed in my bed. The idea of stepping into the shower, getting dressed for work, and hitching a 40-minute ride with my dad to the office seemed like too much effort. If all I had to look forward to was hiding behind my desk all day, I could not even get myself to switch my phone on it. It's not that I was scared of what might be waiting for me when I did. Angry message from Virinda, some fuck yours from Madhav, maybe another sincere apology from Adar. No, I was petrified of finding an empty inbox. My mother came to check on me around 11 a.m. and so I faked a cough for for her benefit. It was better for her mental health if she was assumed I should caught the flu. She touched my forehead with the back of her hand before flipping it over to kiss my face. I told you not to accept to so much. Her reproach was familiar and comforting, the way only a mother could ever be. I grumbled and turned on my side, pulling the covers over my head. You just rest, Anu, she said and squeezed her shoulders, promising to bring me a hot cup of tea in a bit. I spent the entire day dozing in and out of sleep, trying hard to induce an illness out of the blue. In my worst moments, I found myself fantasizing about conversation with my family physician. I'm afraid I have got bad news for you, Ananya, he would say, his mustache dancing on his toe lip. What is it? My mother would ask, clutching my hand. She got a rare type of cancer. I know. It's a terrible thing to fantasize about. And yet, I could not help but wonder how so many of my problems would immediately be resolved if I were so magically develop a deadly disease. The people who hated me, who have no choice but to give me the benefit of the doubt. Those who were mad at me would have to forgive me, and the ones who had wronged me would be overcome the guilt. Morning turned into night, and I stayed confined to my bed, only stepping out to pee every few hours. At some point on Tuesday morning, I briefly thought about writing an email to my boss to inform her I was sick and I had chucked my phone under the bed last night and I did not want to get up to retrieve my laptop from the study table, so I put on my sleeping mask and began continue counting to 100. Wednesday morning arrived and my mom rushed into my room holding the landline in her hand. It's your boss, she said, holding out the phone for me. You didn't tell me her you were ill. I blinked, making an effort to swallow the sour taste in my mouth. I can't. My mother had enough of me. She tilted her head to one side and pointed to the phone in her hand with her eyes. I signed and took it from her. Hello? My voice was groggy and ailingly, and I hoped it sounded pitiable enough for Pooja to not want to scream at me. Get your ass to the office now. It clearly had not worked. But I'm sick. I don't care if you are in the ICU. Be here in an hour or say goodbye to your promotion. She barked and hung up. Quietly, honestly, I did not care about the promotion anymore. Right now, it was hard to care about anything at all, but ignoring Pooja's call would have meant dismissing my own hard work of 3 years, and I was not sure if I had be able to live with that a week from now. So I summoned all the energy and did not possess and dragged myself all the way to my office building. The receptionist did not let me punch in. Pooja ma'am is expecting you in her office, she simply said. The door to her glass cabin was open and she motioned for me to shut in behind me. She was wearing a nude jumpsuit with a belt to clinch her waist. The front of her open-toed sweet sandals was tapping against her desk in perfect synchronicity conversation with her fingertips on the tabletop. She had been waiting for me. Care to explain where you have been? She crossed her legs and leaned back in her chair. She was studying in my she was studying my appearance in my black Beatles hoodie and loose jeans. I looked every bit the part I was trying to play. I have not been keeping well. I felt lightheaded even as I stood there, and I was reminded of the lack of food in my system. You could not have dropped me a text or an email. She crossed her arms to mimic her legs. Was not well enough to do either, I said, placing my hand on her wooden desk for support. Sit down, she said, the coldness in her voice subsiding as she decided I was not telling complete lies. You need to see something. As I took my place across from her, she turned her laptop to face me. While you have conveniently all the last few days, a very pressing email has been waiting for you in your inbox, she said, pointing to the screen. My heart skipped a bit as I read the sender's name. Michael Evans, the global editorial team director of TMJ. Pooja expression hardened again. He had invited you to virtual meeting to discuss the future of Bestman, and I am assuming yours too. The meeting was yesterday, Ananya. You missed it and you did not even bother to respond. I swelled hard, realizing the gravity of my reaction, and I did not see this. I stamped. Do you know how many people have access to him? Hell, even I have never spoke to him directly, she said, shaking her head. I looked down at my hands, feeling the weight of my irresponsibility crashing down on me. Am I getting fired? Fired? Pooja scratched her forehead and said, of course not. We owe you an promotion. Uh, I don't, I said, squinting my eyes in confusion. No one expects you to be perfect, Ananya, she said, tracing her fingers along the mouth of her coffee mug. But you can't just disappear into thin air without a warning. I mumbled an apology, unable to meet her eye. She exhaled loudly. It's going to be fine. I have already done some damage control. Now all we need to do is get you on a call with Michael, and then we can finalize your promotion. So I was still trying to connect the dots as I asked, I am getting a promotion. She let out a short laugh. Yes, genius, after you fix this, though, she said. The air conditioner was blowing directly over my head, and I had to pull at the sleeves of my hoodies to cover as much of my hands as possible. It's not a regular promotion, she said, when I did not ask her further question. If you would come into work after the wedding, you would have known how big a success best man has been. That's great, I said, forcing smile pride into my voice. International has decided to convert the event into an editorial property, she said, and they want you to head it. Her voice was loud and clear, but I was having difficulty registering what she was saying, or rather what it meant for me. Your own team, 6 to 7 wedding every year, sponsor and clean it, collaborations and celebrities. Whoa, wait, hold on, I stumbled. You want me to do this full time? She looked a little bit surprised by my lack of enthusiasm. Yes, you are absolutely brilliant at it. She was smiling at me. Pooja, I closed my eyes for a second, trying to steady myself by holding on to the armrest. I hated working on this project. She was taken aback by my reaction. But it was your idea in the first place. I know, I said, breathing loudly. I was trying to give you something you would like, something that would get me this promotion, and it worked. She was now looking at me with concern, as if she was scared I had a screw loose somewhere. I thought about what she was saying for a teeny minutes. If Westman become an editorial property, I should be organizing a sponsored wedding all year round. That would mean months of planning, finding a sponsor, catering to their wishes, getting influencers on board, accommodating their demands, and so on. I would not have any time for myself ever, and all of this for words, so I could give undeserving couples of ton of content for their soon to frail marriages. Pooja, I know I should have said something sooner, but I'm sorry. I said I can't accept this offer. There was silence. Why? Because I woke up one day and realized I don't like my job. I could not deny it any longer. This is not the right place for me anymore. You need to think about what you are saying, she said, her voice stunned. Decisions like this are not taken an impulse. I stood up from my seat and offered her a heartfelt smile. I hope you are wrong, I said, because I quit. I got stuck in traffic on my way back home. Hundreds of cars were lined up behind each other as a result of accident on a Sarai Kale Khan flyover. As I sat in the backseat of my cab, unmoving and silent, the bell of anxiety in my stomach began to get bigger and louder. I fiddled with my phone, trying to tell myself it was in my best interest to keep it switched off. I did not want to lose hope of the possibility that people were trying to get in touch with me. I did not want to find out that nobody cared about me at all. The unending honking from the car on my left attracted my attention. I immediately recognized the person behind the wheel. It was Saurabh. My first instinct was to duck, assuming that Virinda was in the car with him, but 1 second glance, I noticed that the woman in the passenger seat was not my friend. She had the light fringe that covered her forehead and a square, unsmiling jaw. She spotted me looking at her and said something to Saurabh, pointing at my direction. He turned to look at me and nodded briefly in recognition. I was rolling down on my window to talk to him when the car in front of him moved, and he sped up without a goodbye. I could still see his black Jeep Compass, but it was too far away from me to observe or make any attempts at conversation. Dissatisfied with the interaction, I slid to the other side of the seat and looked out of the window. I was hoping this chance encounter with V's boyfriend would give me some insight into how she was doing and if she wanted to talk to me, but the universe, as always, was not on my side. If we don't move an inch for the next 30 seconds, I'll switch my phone on. I struck a deal with myself. I proceeded to maintain a mental count as my driver honked loudly to verbalize my impatience. Finally, after waiting longer than I should planned, I held down the power button. The screen light up as a series of animations danced in front of my eyes. The wallpaper, a selfies of V and I sticking our tongues out at the camera, seemed to mock me. I waited for the notification to hit me. Nothing. Apart from few messages from Pooja, Rayan and a school WhatsApp group I never participated in, there was no word from anyone. A sinking feeling gripped me and I had to hug my chest tightly to keep myself from falling apart. I should quit my job on Vim. My best friend wanted nothing to do with me. I should lost a bet I had gambled my friendship, love life and even my career on, and I could not get the guy I had lost on out of my head. Every time I let my guard down, I found myself getting transported to that night in the parking lot. It being with him, if being with him had been such a terrible, stinking mistake, why could not I get myself to regret it? The peculiar ache I felt in my gut was not an entirely new feeling. I knew I should felt it before. I opened Instagram and began typing out my ex name, and there he was. He smiled back at me, flashing his flawless teeth. He had his arms around a girl at the red Julia 298. This was what I had been shielding myself from ever since I should had my heart broken in Bangalore when I had discovered that man in the photo had been cheating on me. I stared at the photo, waiting for the familiar pain I felt every time I thought about him, and what could have been a few minutes passed and nothing shifted. I pinched the screen to zoom into his face. Still nothing. No stinging sensation, no nausea. Absolutely nothing. It was almost like I was staring at a stranger's face. I looked up from the screen, bewildered. He was the only man I had ever loved. Even though I was over him, he had always held a part of my head captive. It did not matter if I have no longer envisioned a life with him. I had long expected that seeing him with someone else would forever be a painful sight. So then why was my brain so indifferent and my heart so unbothered? A giggle bubbled out of me, followed by a whimper. The cab driver glanced at me curiously from the rear view mirror. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I was in love with someone else and he was getting married to someone else. So guys, यहाँ पे हमारा ये चैप्टर खत्म होता है. मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट वीडियो में. थैंक्स फॉर वॉचिंग एंड डोंट फॉरगेट टू लाइक शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब माय चैनल. थैंक्स फॉर वॉचिंग.